Welcome to the Top 10 Gardener with Master Gardener Ken Lain. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and top 10 advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, welcome your garden host, Ken Lain.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lain, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. And really, this is the month when planting season is in full swing. You should be thinking you can start trees and shrubs. I mean, this is the time to plant lilacs. This is the time to put a spruce or a pine tree in, and it takes advantage of all the weather we had. We had a midweek little storm, but moisture. This is setting up the stage for a really good wildflower season. So they love this every couple of weeks, a little bit of moisture coming through. Oh, wildflowers are set up perfectly. Last year we had nothing but, I don't know if you remember, 2000, when was that? Last year was just rainy and snowy through May, really. It wasn't ideal. This is much warmer. In between the storms, it's much warmer, brighter, sunnier. And so this is what really sets the stage for a beautiful wildflower season, beautiful, showy, blooming shrubs like forsythia, lilacs, quince, your trees like redbuds, crabapples, serviceberries. They love this. And so it's good. You can put new plants in now. Things to watch for. So where rookies get confused, they're thinking just summer plants. They just remember planting with their grandmother and all they did was tomatoes and they did them in the summer. Well, this is not summer. This is still wintry, very early spring. And so you need plants that can take warm days, cold nights, a storm system every once in a while, frosty. There's plants that love that. Pansies are a great example. So we got a beautiful crop of pansies coming in. This is a beautiful, it's a flower. Pansies, you gardeners know, I'm sorry, I'm not putting you down, but for novices, maybe tuning in, just going, I just want to learn a little more. Pansies are a very early spring flower. It's got a flower about the size of a silver dollar. It's got a monkey face in the front of it, very fragrant to it. But these plants love this time of year. They don't thrive in summer. In fact, they poop out. Many times they just collapse going, I can't take the heat. It's too much. And so they just they fall. And that's when you put your petunias, your geraniums, your zinnias, cosmos. They love the heat, but not pansies, not violas, not snapdragons. These are all plants that are planted now for enjoyment through spring. In fact, I put mine in secret alert. Here's the insider tip. It's so mild up here that if you plant your pansies in the winter, late, like autumn, so September, October, they literally will bloom right through winter and then keep going through spring. And then finally in June, they kind of go, just too much. I can't keep doing this. And they fade. So timing, it's every time you move into a new or learn gardening to a new place, a lot of this has to do with what's the calendar? When do you do things? When am I working with the environment instead of against the environment? And so if you work against Mother Nature, you're going to have problems. And so you're not going to win. She's going to win for sure. But if you work with it, boy, it does you a great big favor. And that's what gardening is learning those sequences. And so what we're finding now, it is very much time, if you're working with the environment. This will be new. This is unique to the mountains, higher elevation gardening. You're pruning your roses later than usual, later than you would in California, later than you would in Phoenix or Tucson or Palm Springs or anywhere else. Here you prune them back, even in the Midwest. In the Midwest, you prune back your roses in like autumn. You put some field fence around it, and you put a whole bunch of dead leaves on top of that just to insulate your roses. So you're cutting them back real hard just so they're smaller so you can insulate them easier. In Phoenix, in the deserts, the warmer zone, there you're cutting them back in like November, December, because they're going to start growing in January. I mean, it's just the season is so soon. Here, roses are not going to start growing until March. And so March is our best time to prune roses. You'll be tempted to do it earlier, but our thinking is you keep all that structure of the rose up intact, or protecting, insulating the core or the heart of that rose cane where the grafts are. And so we're so mild that just by pruning it a little later, keeping the structure of those canes up, protecting that heart of the plant, that is enough to keep the plant alive. So we don't insulate them like you would in the Midwest. Of course, we don't get down to, what are you folks are crazy, minus 20 degrees. You got to be nuts. No one lives there. I guess they do, but they keep coming down to here. And so because it's so mild, here we might get down into maybe single digits. In fact, I just looked at my algorithm. I've got a smart weather system. It tells me how much rain. We had 2.08 inches at our house, in our yard in February. The lowest temperature recorded 17. The highest was 64. I mean, come on, that's February. And so that's normal for us. We just don't see that sub-zero stuff that stays down there. So we wait to prune our roses until March. We cut them back. If you look at them closely, they're already starting to grow. So in fact, some of you at the little bit lower elevations, that east facing, Jerome, Camp Verde, you folks, you probably already have your roses growing. They probably popped 10 days ago. And so over here on this side of the hill, where it's a little more shaded, a little bit colder, maybe a couple of feet higher, but same zone, they're starting to grow too. It's okay to prune roses while they're growing. In fact, they prefer that. And so you get your best flowers on new canes on roses. If you have old, crusty, barky, the older canes on a rose, they look like a tree trunk, only with thorns on them that look like they want to rip your skin off. That's not good. They'll have smaller and less flowers. So if you have vibrant new canes, green new canes, that's where your biggest. If you're going to enter a flower into the fair for the fragrance, you're going to encourage it to grow a flower and enter that flower on new growth, because it'll be bigger, better, fragrant. And trust me, prune in March. Here in the central highlands, the central part of Arizona, you'll have a better rose. You'll have an easier life, and you're not working against nature. You'll be working with nature. The other one to mention too, I've had quite a few folks mention hedges, from Red Tip Photinias to euonymus to what else? Cotoneasters, junipers, all these hedgerows. Now is your time. So you could prune them back earlier and they wouldn't care. But you would. So many of these big hedges, once you cut them back, they have these big old barky stems to them. So they look butchered. You got to prune them back hard. Butterfly bush, you got to prune that thing back hard to get it to regrow again. So they're about to start growing. So personally, I like to prune back my hedges right before they're about to grow, so that I don't have to look out that living room window and look at this butchered hedge from January, February, March. I'm going to leave it like that through February and January and February. And I'll cut it back in March, fertilize it, so my pruned back hedgerow looks, once it pushes new growth, it looks good. So I'm trying to shrink that time between when I pruned it and when it's starting to grow. I just shrink that down. And March is your ideal time. If you make a mistake on any pruning, you can fertilize your way out of any mistake with pruning. I mean, to just chuck a few handfuls of the 744 all-purpose plant food down at the base of that plant, and it will pick that up, grow its way out. So if you're not quite sure where to, even on fruit trees, shade trees, if you're not quite sure, fertilize afterwards. And it will, if you're going to make a mistake, it'll be you didn't prune back hard enough. It's better to prune back hard and then fertilize and grow your way out of it. You'll have better plants for that. Bigger roots for less foliage mass, you get better growth. The book says you can prune back 30% of the foliage mass now. That's substantial. So anything more than that, maybe it's a little bit too aggressive. You take a couple seasons on it, but that's how you prune. You prune roses and hedges in March for best health. Got more for you. Be right back after this. Something very special happens next weekend. This is March 15, 16, 17. For 62 years, we've celebrated the start of the spring season here at Waters Garden Center. And the way we do that is we've got special classes, giveaways, raffles. Mainly, we bring in the growers that are developing these new plants here at Waters Garden Center. They feature them. So I bring them in, make them famous. They make sure they bring some of their latest, greatest, like this batch isn't supposed to be released until next year, the end of this year. They bring them with, they show them off. And so I get the experts coming to Waters Gardens, and they're going to teach the class on Saturday at 9:30. I'm just going to line them up and say, hey, Chris, how did you actually develop this new desert willow? How'd you come up with that? And so he's a great storyteller. He'll share how his family has created. He's one of the foremost gardeners. He probably has more patents under his family's name than we have socks in the drawer. It's amazing what kind of new plants are coming up with. So they're hanging out here. They'll show off the plants. Friday at 3:00. That's this coming Friday, the 15th. It's plant happy hour. I'm going to present what I see as the new plants. The growers will do it on Saturday. I'll kind of show off. It's much more casual. Friday at 3, and it's just an opportunity to see the latest, greatest things. We are filling the garden center up right now with the plants, getting ready for spring 2024. You're welcome to join us. It's going to be fun all weekend long. Lots of plants going off, just lots of classes, lots of experts, horticulturalists everywhere. Lisa and I will just camp out on Sunday, just answering questions underneath the front greenhouse. So you get the foremost horticulturalists here in the county, probably one in the state, right here all Sunday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, March 15, 16, 17, 62nd Spring Open House here at Waters Garden Center, Prescott, Arizona.
You're listening to Garden Master Ken Lain, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join his daily podcast for timely garden advice seasonally right for the gardens. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott or through his website at top10gardener.com.